Hello, fellow wealth hackers. This is the Truth About Real Estate Investing show. My name is Roman Cito, and I hope you're all having a great week. Last week, my team and I attended 2 virtual events. I miss live events. This is the best we can do, though. One of them was the Flip Hacker conference, and their plan was to be in Orlando, Florida. That would be nice. Anyways, so one was a 3-day conference, Flip Hacker event, and also Rockstar's Your Life, Your Terms event. Both were excellent. The Flip Hacker event was hosted and presented by Americans, which is not a bad thing. I was able to take away several nuggets of information from the presentations. However, some of the tactical information that I was looking for that was being shared, they shared lots of great tactical information, but great for Americans. And unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of the information that I wanted, but that's okay. No one's perfect. And, they're sharing what they know and totally okay. Unfortunately, a lot of these practices that they were teaching don't apply in Canada. Again, it's understandable, but attending the key thing, though, is that attending the conference cued me to reach out to a wholesaler friend of mine who's one of the best in Canada. And I asked them, where can I learn more about the subject of wholesaling? So my friend connected to me, referred me to another American. This American, though, is actually a pair of Americans who are used to working with Canadians. And we're meeting over Zoom on Thursday with Joel and I, and I'm excited about it. This was a reminder of how lucky we are to have Canadian content. The Canadian content that we do have available to us. I've belonged to 2 real estate networks in Canada for a long, long, long time. More than 10. One of them was for over 10 years. And I've known countless people who've been burnt investing in U.S. education material and paying for coaches only to have their investments here in Canada go down in flames. Every real estate market is different. Edmonton and Toronto could not be more different. No different than Vancouver is not comparable to any major U.S. city. And I'll give you a quick example. When I was in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in February of this year, I went to see an open house for a house that was on the water. The price was cheaper than anything you'd see in the GTA on Lake Ontario. The house had been listed for 60 days already. And the normal for conditional periods, do you know what it is? And I'm sure most of you know what it is, what the typical is in your local market. In Fort Lauderdale, Florida, it is 30 days for financing. 30. This is pre-pandemic as well. Add to that, the landlord-tenant laws are considerably more favorable for landlords in the state of Florida than in most parts of Canada. One local Florida investor told me that if a landlord has to go to court for non-payment of rent, the tenant does not get a hearing unless they transfer the rent in question to the court's trust account to prove they have the money. Non-payment of rent here, back home, makes up around 70% of cases at the landlord-tenant tribunal. So how much backlog, time, and resources could be saved if we had a similar process? This would make lives easier for tenants looking for accommodation and for landlords who are not getting their rent. I call this a win-win. Do make sure to ask questions of whatever experts you are following in their local expertise. I will be when I Zoom meet with these wholesaling experts on Thursday. Rockstar's Your Life, Your Terms event, however, was highly tactical for the Ontario investor. I took lots of notes and we'll definitely be applying these lessons to our businesses and to best assist our real estate clients and stock hacker community. Speaking of supporting our community, did anyone take advantage of Amazon's Prime Days? This is the first time I've done it. The way Amazon Prime Day has been explained to me, it's Amazon's version of Black Friday. I think they still do Black Friday as well. Anyways, I bought not 1, but 2 40-inch Samsung TVs, and I don't even watch TV. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I didn't keep them. They weren't shipped to my home. I had them sent to the families that I was supporting as part of the Hamilton Basket Brigade. This was just part of my donation. One family had lost their home as it was condemned for being unsafe, and the other family had lost their home and belongings in a fire. They've both since found new homes, but they didn't have TVs, so I bought them each a TV. One of the families, the family that had to leave their home because it was condemned for safety reasons, they have 12 children. 12. The youngest being under 1 and the oldest being 18. So at the Basket Brigade, we budget based on family size, $100 per member of the family. So in this case, we had budget for a brand new Nintendo and Mario Kart and a new controller for that new version of the Nintendo. You can tell I'm very sophisticated in this technology stuff, but I don't have any of it myself. I'd love to have one, but I can't afford to have this stuff for myself. So we buy them for charity. On the mental health front, I'm hearing from many investors, entrepreneurs, and friends that the pandemic is getting them down. I hear this almost daily from a lot of high achievers. So I thought I'd take a moment to share what has worked for me. To keep my weight down, I've been fasting. After I stepped on the scale back in March and April, around there somewhere, I was approaching 190 pounds. That wasn't good weight either because I wasn't going to the gym. From then on, about 90% of mornings, I pretty much don't eat anything, at least nothing of significance, until I'm hungry until around 10 to 11 a.m. So I stop eating after dinner. I have dinner around 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and then I don't eat anything again until 10 or 11 in the morning the next day. I basically skip breakfast. I've done this before under the guidance of Dr. Callum Cowan, so please don't take my advice. Go seek professional help. But again, this has helped me with my energy levels and staying higher. And also, I've kept the weight off. Getting back into the gym has helped me a lot. Personally, I CrossFit in a CrossFit gym under a CrossFit coach. And last week, when I looked across the gym, I noticed Coach Amanda, a national weightlifting champion, was also working out, about 30 feet from me. How good is she? She's a national champion, as I mentioned, and she placed fourth at a recent Pan Am Games. So she's yes, much more talented than I am. She's also way more hardworking than I am. I think she's in the gym 6 days a week. Anyways, I don't know what it is, but for me, being around greatness rubs off. Doesn't actually make me any better, but I do get inspired and I raise my game, which isn't much, but I give an extra 10%, which again isn't much, but I get a better workout when I'm inspired. When it was time for me to lift weights, I called across the gym to Coach Amanda I got her attention. I asked her to turn around and not watch. And then I focused on my lift. I took my offer and she didn't turn around. She said, not too loud, but she said I wasn't that bad. It was part joke, part, yeah, whatever. So in my opinion, getting a not bad feedback from a national champion is pretty good in my books. Anyways, I'm also still dining out in restaurants mostly for lunches and sometimes dinner with friends and family. We don't hug or handshake, but I'm still making the time to hang out with high achievers like Mike Rosehart, who we had on the podcast last week. We have upcoming guests like Rene Masse, Matt Pichet. Wow, a lot of French Canadians, it sounds like. We have Chris Lewis. So all of these people have a lot of property. We have Yves Yao coming up. I know many of you don't know him, but he's got a pretty cool story of leaving corporate and owning a lot of property. And we also have this week's guest and James Money Bags Maggs. James's nickname is MBM. Yeah, I think all investors should have a cool nickname. So James MBM or Money Bags Maggs left his corporate job from a major telecom company. He purchased 17 investment properties. He retired his wife back in 20 something. I forget. I think he said 2013, maybe 2014. So anyways, tripled his work income in real estate by helping folks invest in real estate. He learned to stock hack for $4,000 which is cash, $4,000 cash per month. And he improved his health. He spends more time with his friends and family in more than ever in just 10 years. Yeah, he's had a bit of a transformation. Full disclosure, James and I met about 10 years ago. And this is his story. It's keeping you busy these days, James.
Well, it's been quite a year, right? So, between real estate in general, which the market's been insane for any of you that haven't been paying attention to the headlines, it's probably one of the hottest years we've had in like the last 3-4 years. So real estate in general, real estate in my properties, stock hacking. There's a lot of things on the go these days.
You still can make it into the gym too.
Yes. Yeah, I took, everyone joked about the COVID-15. So from end of March until probably July, because I think July was when the gyms opened back out. And then I worked off that. I wasn't 15, it was like 5. So COVID-5 was worked off within the first little while, but I've been back at the gym consistently now. Not necessarily in the gym, but just being active, doing stairs, working at a friend's garage gym, working at a friend who owns a different private gym. So a little bit of here, a little bit of there, keeping it busy and interesting.
Mm-hmm. How is Tammy's gym doing? Are they back on their feet?
They're not open to the public. So it's not like a general workout. You have to be working out with a trainer. So it falls under the similar rules as some of those other private training gyms where you don't have to fall into like the Good Lifes of the world and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where you're splitting time between that?
Yeah, once a week, and then the garage gym, and then Good Life, and then doing the stairs and whatever other cardio comes my way. Did some mountain biking over the summer. Got back into that.
Did you buy a bike, or you already had a bike?
Had a bike that I hadn't used for about a year. So COVID was good to actually get me out again, and I was doing trail riding with a friend. We had a couple of 20 kilometer circuits.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good.
Cool. Yeah, I had my COVID, I think it was like COVID 12. And then I just started fasting again. Mm-hmm. Started basically skipping breakfast. I kept it pretty easy. I didn't get into the gym nearly as much as you did. I was more like once a week at best, and I was golfing.
Yeah. Well, the problem with this summer was that, with lack of entertainment and things to do and places to go, there was a lot of pool parties between family members or myself. So there was every time there was a pool party, there was beverages being consumed. A lot of calories and beers when you think about it that way.
Now you mentioned it. You were stuck in Costa Rica for a bit. I forgot about that. When the pandemic hit.
Yeah, well, it wasn't stuck. We were there on vacation and we had friends visiting us, and then they left just before kind of the state of emergency announcement. And so, as much as was trying to relax there, I wanted to kind of keep an eye on how things were going with the rest of the world. And, every day Facebook had a million different things on how things were starting to get worse. And then slowly but surely, I remember it was the 13th, I think, of March when they did the announcement, state of emergency, airlines were shutting down, all this stuff. And then I was like, well, how bad could it be? What's the worst thing that could happen if I get stuck here for 2 or 3 extra weeks? That was my thought process then, right? I think Costa Rica just opened the borders, I think it was October 1st, to get people back into the country, right? So we probably could have left, but we ended up leaving about a week early. So
crazy.
Kind of sucks. We had to miss the last 6 days. And then, the 3-4 days before that were pretty stressful trying to figure out what to do. Mm-hmm. Though, being stressed by the beach in Costa Rica is not a bad place to be stressed.
I don't know. I like being stressed at home if I'm going to be stressed.
We had good company there too. We had great neighbors.
I don't even know where to start. Let's stay on the condo. You own a condo in Costa Rica on how far from the beach?
3-minute walk.
3-minute walk from the beach. How'd you get that?
How did we get it? Luck. I say luck, but it was probably opportunity. Mm-hmm. I think I've mentioned this before, how I'm very opportunistic when it comes to investing in things in general. Mm-hmm. So we were down there on vacation. We're walking by and saw the sign there. And so I called the developer. The developer came out and said he'd spend some time with me.
He just happened to be there?
No, he drove an hour from San Jose.
Oh, you called the number?
Called the number.
Okay.
Yeah, he came out, met with us. So we bought on spec. So they're just building their sites before they sold them. Mm-hmm. And we were the first ones to close and move in and kind of take possession. And now it's fully occupied.
Sorry, you were the first buyer?
First buyer.
All right. I was just listening to an audiobook where they talked about trailblazers. Trailblazers often end up face down with arrows in their back. All right, James. Yeah. So, how do you buy a property in a foreign country?
That one was actually pretty easy. So I did a lot of research on the different requirements, mm-hmm. and Costa Rica is pretty unique in that you have normal land title rights similar to what we have here. It's not like places like Mexico where I heard you can have your land taken away from you. So it felt pretty safe that way. But we just bought an incorporation. So found a lawyer, opened a Costa Rica corporation, mm-hmm. and then the corporation owns the property. And so now if I ever want to sell the house, I just sell the corp.
What about like taxes and financing?
Yeah, so financing is very different there than it is here. Interest rates are nowhere near as favorable. Average interest rates there at the time, I don't know what they are today, but they mm-hmm. were 8%. Mm-hmm. And traditional banks won't do financing. So I had in my back pocket from the beginning that the developer was offering to do financing at 50% down.
Interesting. And what rate did he offer you?
So I negotiated with them, but we kept the 8%. And it was... Originally, I tried to shoot for interest only, but he didn't want to do that. So there's a small amount of principal, but payments are actually less than what a standard rental property would be here on a monthly basis.
Very interesting. I don't know where to go now. Let's go there. How did you afford this? How much was it?
It was about $200,000 US.
200. So you had to come up with $100,000 the down payment. So you just have that in your pocket?
Of course, no.
You walk around with.
No, that was one of the benefits of being a real estate investor for quite a few years before I got to this point. So it's not something that I would have been able to do if I hadn't gotten into real estate investing when I did, mm-hmm. for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your nickname now is Moneybags Maggs.
As you like to call me.
I have nicknames for all my friends, but and then I was joking with you before we started recording. Would anyone call you Moneybags in 2014? Actually, no. Wait, we met in 2011.
Right.
Right, we met in 2011. You started working with me on the team 2014?
2014, yeah.
Okay. So real estate allowed you to be able to buy pretty much most people's idea of a dream property.
For sure. Well, and that was my original goal, right? Like, I mean, you go back to some of the different coaching programs, they have their philosophy is what is your dream? What's your beliefs, right? And that was kind of one of mine, to have a retirement property somewhere hot that I loved. And I didn't quite expect it to do it that early. But, thinking about the advantages it would give me, and being able, I did the whole cost benefit analysis and risk analysis like I would do with any other real estate investment. So it just really made sense. And originally the plan was to rent it out to cover the costs when we weren't there. And now it's really just friends and family. And it's nice to be able to have that option and not have to fill it in order to be able to afford it.
Right. Just because I like to geek out on real estate. How long did it take for that development to sell out?
It was a while.
Yeah.
So we were first in, and then that was in like November. We closed September or October. We closed, and then
start of the year,
2016.
Oh, it's been that long.
Yeah, and then 2017, our neighbor across moved in, and they're actually expats from Australia, and now they live there full time. And then slowly but surely, the rest of the people come in. But it's interesting because one of the other units is somebody from their Costa Rica native, but that's their cottage. Right, it's about an hour from where they live, and so that's their beach house. And then the rest of them are actually long-term rentals.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So just to paint a picture for the listener, this is the number one tourist destination in Costa Rica, isn't it?
Pretty much, from a surf perspective, from a safety perspective, from a growth perspective, the town has transformed dramatically from the amount of money that's been poured into it.
But it's still tiny.
It is, yeah.
It's still tiny. Like they don't even have a McDonald's. Right?
No, they have a KFC.
They have a KFC. They don't have McDonald's. No Starbucks?
Nope.
No Starbucks. No Tim Hortons, definitely.
No.
Okay. And what I'm trying to explain to the listener is, for those who don't know, like it's a 3-minute walk to the beach, to the ocean. If you're a 3-minute walk to Lake Ontario in the GTA, how long does that piece of real estate last?
Yeah, and it took a while. I mean, that's the thing too. So the interesting thing is, one of our neighbors is actually a realtor down there, and she's from Canada originally. She's from Toronto. She's been down there 25 years. And she said with 2007, 2008, that was the first thing to go, was those vacation homes, right? All the wealthy US people that had houses just ditched them all, right? So it's taken a long time to recover. And unfortunately, it's probably taken another hit with COVID.
Pandemic,
right?
Oh yeah, big time. And also, just to clarify, even though it is condo ownership, it's what?
It's a semi.
It's a semi, 1,700 square feet?
1,400 square feet.
1,400 square feet.
2 bed, 2 bath. Sorry, 2 bed, 3 bath. We have our own pool.
I'm just going to pull up the calculator for some quick math because I want to know the square footage. You're good at math. Do you know it offhand? How much did you pay per square foot?
Oh, no, I don't know. Do the math. Let's see it here.
200,000, 1,400 square feet, 142 US a foot, 143 a foot.
It's not bad compared to the condos in Toronto that are selling for 1,000 a square foot.
All right, you said condo in Toronto. Now how many condos do you own now?
2.
And you don't live in them?
No.
So when you mean condos, you mean Toronto? They're both in Toronto?
Condos, yeah.
Okay. You really are all over the place.
Yeah. Opportunistic.
I want the more recent one. Why did you invest in a condo? The cash flows like crazy, right? You're an Airbnb?
It probably will not cash flow. Well, actually, it might by the time it's built. So that one is a new purchase. That was in March of this year. Actually, February of this year, right when we got back.
This year?
Yeah.
So you bought before the pandemic?
Pre-pandemic, yeah.
Okay.
But it's not probably going to be 4 years before it's built. So I've got a lot of time for the condo market to recover. But I was going through the thought process of, my kind of journey from graduating high school, going to university, getting a full-time job. And then, after university, I moved to Toronto, and I rented there and then ended up buying a condo. And my thought process, I bought my first condo in Toronto a lot of years ago for $150,000. And if condos now are going for, $600,000 to $700,000 for shoe boxes, what are they going to be like by the time my daughter, who's now 10, so another 10 years, what are those numbers going to look like? Are they going to be 1.4 million? Are they going to be 2 million? And so my thought process was, even if she doesn't live there ever, at least she'll have the option. She could refinance it. She can take money out. She can get a line of credit on it, whatever it is, and use that for either schooling or, a down payment on her home or wherever she chooses to do. So it was about choice. Because I just think that, Toronto real estate, regardless of what happens after the pandemic, is always going to be desirable. And as a world-class city, and the condo itself is in a prime location where, don't need a car, don't need anything. It's kind of right downtown in the core.
Yeah, we were just having lunch with someone who has spent a lot of time in the US. And even though he has a lot of opportunity in the States, he prefers it here.
Yeah, it's interesting. He could be doing really well in the US, and he just says just everything else besides what's going on due to COVID. It's just people, country, culture in Canada is that much better, at least for him.
It's funny because I always enjoy when I'm in the States, but when I'm home, I'm really happy to be home. Yeah, I don't see I don't have his experience of being in the States. Of course, him being of color makes a difference, I think, maybe.
Well, that and I mean, he's there for business too. So I think it's a different, where if you're there for pleasure, I mean, you might have a different experience.
True. We'll see. Okay. How did you earn the nickname?
Well, you gave me the nickname, which is interesting enough. But
what is the nickname again?
Moneybags Maggs, because it rhymes, obviously.
I remember the conversation, how it came about.
I don't even remember.
Oh, I think you were talking about, we were in the middle of a discussion about you either needing to buy more gold or you had just bought more gold, like physical gold. James is always just buying stuff. It's like he's got money bags.
Well, so
anyone who's listening will likely agree.
My philosophy, and I don't even know if this was conscious, but I'm that type of person that if I have available money in the account, I'll probably spend it. So my whole rationale was, if I can take money that I have and put it in things that aren't easily accessible, like gold. It's very hard to turn gold into cash. And houses, it's kind of like forced savings. I can't touch that. And it's going to be invested and it's going to grow. I did a pretty good job when I was still investing in RSPs of having it automatically withdrawn from my account. But this is a way to add much bigger chunks and not be able to touch them. So that was kind of my big, make myself cash poor, but investment rich.
All right. The rumor is you have gold bricks buried under your pool.
That'd be interesting. I should have done that. Actually, no, that's too hard to get at. No, I have a little bit of gold, quite a bit of silver, looking to work on that and I want to learn more about Bitcoin, especially based on what, the way the financial system seems to be heading.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious about the Bitcoin thing and that, because I don't think anyone will disagree that cash flow is king. Right? It's not cash is not king. Cash flow is king. And like my physical gold, for example, it's not making me any money.
No.
Right? I understand what it's for. It's supposed to be an insurance policy in case things go to hell. And I need some sort of currency that's accepted. I still don't know how it's going to work with a coin that's worth, I don't even know what an ounce is worth.
It's about $2,000.
Okay, so I have one coin here. Can you you have a knife or something? You can shave some of this off. Yeah. And I can buy a bag of milk. But okay, Bitcoin's even worse because whatever. I don't know if I want my money just sitting there. Even if it's appreciating, I'd almost rather have the cash flow.
Agreed. I think it's more of a hedge against some uncertain future where, if you have cash, it can either be rapidly devalued or, hyperinflation or something like that. But I think there'll be enough time to react if that starts to come about. But I don't know that would ever happen based on the current state of the economy. The government wouldn't allow it, at least until something drastic changes.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Because my thinking was always like the government can always just come out with their own digital currency if they want to. And then why would you ever need one of these things unless your purpose is to move money between countries?
Off the radar, right?
Yeah, off the radar.
Yeah.
Just ride a taxi across the border. All right, what else? Okay, I don't even think we touched on it. I don't even know the answer to this. How many properties do you have now?
If you factor in Costa Rica at 12.
Even dozen. Okay.
A couple of those are joint ventures, more opportunistic joint ventures than planned joint ventures. But yeah, so for the most part, a couple of them were with a friend. And his thought process was, he's a really busy guy. He didn't do a very good job of managing some of his properties. So, and he we get together for fun anyway to hang out. So, and we're kind of accountability partners as well in that. So it was kind of made sense for us to partner up on a few properties, help our, capital go a little bit further. And then, it's nice to have somebody else to celebrate success with too.
Right. Also, this friend makes a lot of money already.
He does okay.
Yeah. That's kind of like the perfect, it's just good to bring up. Like that's kind of like the ideal joint venture partner.
It is.
Someone who makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Doesn't have time. Lives far away from the property.
Yeah. And doesn't no interest in managing it, no interest in picking tenants, dealing with any of that stuff. So we kind of share a couple of the responsibilities, but for the most part, we're happy to outsource everything and pay a little bit more for it. It's not like I'm the working partner and he's the money partner. It's kind of more of, we're both of that same mindset that, we know that this is going to be a good long-term investment. And so, a couple $100 here or there per month for having somebody else successfully management just makes sense.
And then how did the down payment and the budget for renos and the financing work?
100% 50-50 on everything.
All right.
Yeah.
Wait, you both applied for the mortgage?
Yeah. So mortgage, well, for 2 properties. So one is in his name, one is in mine.
Okay.
We're just kind of taking turns.
Got it. Yeah, because for the beginner investor, that makes no sense. For if you can get your own mortgage, you shouldn't tie someone else's credit up.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know some of you are laughing and thinking like, oh, that's so beginner, but honestly, some people would do that. We've actually seen it. We've actually seen it in our clients.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is at the beginning is like, why joint venture until you've tapped out all of your available finances and all your mortgages, right? Do that later, right? But for certain people at certain times in their investing career, kind of makes sense.
And we actually had one client who they were partners in life. And even though we give them the advice, if it was me, I would, you take turns getting mortgages. They said, no, we both want to be on.
Both on title.
It's like, okay.
Like, doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
Maybe they have trust issues.
Yeah, I think it's more. I think that came down to that, which was odd because they've been partners in life for like more than a decade. So like, never mind. Now, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Why did you first start buying investment properties? And what year was that?
2010 was the first. 2009 was, I think, when I started seriously looking around at properties. So prior to that, my full-time gig when I was still at Bell, I was really bored and I didn't see myself there for a very long time. And I kind of looked at other opportunities and none of the other opportunities gave me Bell had teleworking before teleworking was cool and remote working was cool. And so we did everything, we didn't have video conferencing, but we had teleconferencing. And so I was able to work from home. And so for me, when I was looking at other jobs, it was like, okay, I'm going to need to get paid at least $15,000 to $20,000 more than what I'm getting paid just to factor in my commute. And I just couldn't find that out there. So I was looking at other things. So do I start another business? Do I have a side hustle? Read the 4-Hour Work Week. What's going to be my muse and what am I going to do to make myself a lot of money? And all those seemed like a lot of work. So I read a little bit about real estate investing, dug into that. And I thought, how hard could it be? Buy a house, put in a tenant, and, take care of some repairs here and there. And so that's what really drove me down the path of real estate investing and to start digging into it a little bit more.
Was it Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of them. And then I was kind of early advent of, a lot of the internet training and stuff. And so I was snooping around on a couple of the Rich Dad Poor Dad sites and they signed up for one of their email newsletters and they reached out to me for coaching. So I took their coaching program and that's really what gave me the push to take some action for sure.
Where was the coach? Where were they located?
Yeah, they were based in the States. So they had a good idea of generic real estate investing, but from an understanding of the market, it was really all the onus was on me to try and figure stuff out.
Interesting.
So they had a lot of the fundamentals right in that, build your team, go interview lawyers and accountants and all this stuff and try and figure out how to make sure you have support. Which I did, luckily, because I didn't talk to all the right people at the very beginning, but at least I had the people. I wasn't trying to do it all on my own.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of American stuff, and it still does, and you even see it coming out of Alberta, like they talk about like agreements for sale, for example. For those who aren't familiar with agreements for sale, it's different from agreement of purchase and sale. Agreement for sale, let me see if I get this right. You basically take over payments for the owner's mortgage, and you have control of the property essentially. But the owner of the property still owns the property; its mortgage is still in their name. But at least that you're sort of paying them rent, but you have a lot more control than that. Yeah, you have basically the rights to sell the property, and you have the rights to usually purchase the property at a certain time.
Even and to rent it out. So most people make their money on the spreads and stuff like that too.
Yeah. Like for example, that was big. Like I saw that was big in terms of being marketed towards real estate investors. But personally, I don't know anyone who's stuck with it in Ontario.
No, so many of the strategies, like the tax lien strategies, don't work in Canada the same way they do in the States.
So just to share with the listener, I don't know if I told you this story. I've only seen one agreement for sale deal done in Hamilton. And that's the only deal I've seen done. And I remember it was on King Street. So one of the busiest streets in Hamilton. I remember the person who kind of owned it, the investor who had the agreement for sale on that property, they asked me to have a look at it, give them an opinion on it, because they were going to try to sell it. So I remember seeing the property, and I walk by the front of the house to head towards the door. I'm like, hey, did you notice this crack here? And there's a gigantic crack right in the cornerstone of the property, right on the corner of the property. And for those who don't know, you call it the cornerstone for a reason. It's really, really important to the structure of the house.
Yeah.
And there's a gigantic crack on it. And anyone who walks by it on their way to the front door would see it. The house needed a ton of work. But then, anyone who knows, like, crack in the cornerstone, like, there's a big one. Like, big red flag.
Huge. Could be structural issues, foundation issues, everything, right?
Yeah. It could be massive foundational issues on a busy street. You wonder why that a homeowner was willing to do agreement for sale.
Exactly.
Because no one else probably wanted that house.
Yeah.
And couldn't sell it. Right. So here is this person that has the rights to it, or I don't even know what they were. It was a while ago. And that's the only time I've ever seen the deal done. Right. I don't even know how it worked out. I think I did follow. I think I followed up with her after. I think she might have broken even on it.
Right.
After like 2 years of dealing with it. So 2 years of your life in an investment to make no money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Unless they don't work. I'm sure these work somewhere.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense in a market where...
No, and that's the thing that was, I remember back when I first started too, looking at the top investment towns, happened to live in Hamilton, and that year Hamilton was like one of the top towns. So it just made sense to me as well. Like, in the States, there's so many markets that you could get into that don't have the right fundamentals. And, the markets that we invest in and I invest in and all our clients are those solid fundamental markets where it's, if you're investing in the right areas and the right properties, it's hard to make a mistake.
And that kind of leads us to your story. Because for anyone who doesn't know James, his first properties that he bought are like in like the most ghetto area of Hamilton.
Just one.
Yeah. like sometimes when you see like a headline, like there was a shooting, it's on the same street as your property.
One shooting, one stabbing, yeah.
Just at the corner of your property. Just at the corner.
The McDonald's on the corner, it's okay.
So how many properties did you buy before you met me? Investment properties, not your home.
I think it was 3.
You had 3, okay.
Yeah.
What were they? Triplex, 2-bedroom?
Triplex and 2 single family.
Okay. And one's a 2-bedroom?
One's a 2-bedroom, yeah.
Very good. And then what was that like, being a first-time investor in the very, very northeast of Hamilton?
It was rough. And you hear the same story from so many other investors where you look at numbers on a spreadsheet to determine what you're going to buy, right? And, the numbers really worked well. And I was like, if I can make, and remember, this was 2009. And I'm like, my target cash flow in 2009 was $1,000 a month, which was huge. The rents are a lot higher now, so it's a lot easier to attain that. I know the prices are higher, but so that was my main factor in each property was, how much cash flow could I get? I made tons of mistakes. I inherited other people's tenants, assumed them, low rents, and the area didn't support great tenants in the first place. So I inherited some pretty bad tenants. And now I've had, now it's 10 years later, the area has improved a lot, as has Hamilton as a whole. Numbers all across the board have gone up. For example, like the top floor unit I just renovated, just put somebody in actually September 1st. And when I bought the house, the rent was $450 a month, and I'm getting
for 1 bedroom.
1 bedroom,
okay.
And I'm getting $1,250 now. So, needless to say, the cash flow numbers have jumped up even from $1,000. Now I have refinanced that property. That's an infinite return property, as Susan White-Livermore would say. So none of my own money is left in that property, but the cash flow numbers are still really good.
What did you pay for these properties?
That one was $145.
Right. And the age of the properties?
Everything in the lower city of Hamilton is early 1900s. So that comes with its own set of problems or potential problems.
Right. So over 100 years?
Yeah.
And these were well maintained when you got them?
Most of them, no. Some of them had full electrical replacements, which was rare back then for sure.
Very rare, because people don't have money for it.
No, and there was no value in it. Like, today you spend $10,000, $15,000 fixing up a property, you might actually get 20, 30 back in value. Back then, you'd spend 15 and you get 5. Like it just wouldn't appreciate like it does today.
Right, which is why most electrical work was
left not done. So
or you had a buddy do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was no permit.
So I mean, over the years, I've had enough cash flow in the properties to like, one of the panels for the triplex, all 3 panels were in the basement. So if there was ever an issue, the upstairs tenant had to knock on the main floor tenant's door, right? Stuff like that. So I moved the panel upstairs. Had a home inspection when I bought it, no knob and tube. Was doing renovations, and they like, oh, we found knob and tube. So it was just hidden pigtails in the wall, stuff like that you hear. So, fixed all that stuff, fixed a lot of extra electrical issues over the time as you do renovations. And, now they're all in really good shape. But I mean, I made sure everything was safe and modernized from day one anyway. Might not have looked the greatest, but they were good properties.
You mentioned they look good on spreadsheet. What was there anything missing from your spreadsheet from the beginning? Like, considering they're 100-year-old houses, I'm guessing the maintenance
repairs were not something that I had factored in.
Right.
What
do you remember what you factored versus what it works out to roughly?
Yeah, well, I looked at hard costs, which is what I tell everybody to look at in the first place. Property taxes, mortgage, insurance. I looked at a little bit of vacancy to figure out what that would look like. Though at the time, vacancy rates were still very low as well, even for Hamilton. And, but, maintenance, I really didn't have a good idea of what to use. And I think that, the rule of thumb is, 8 or 10% of gross rents. But my goal at the time was to invest every penny that I had into the next property, into the next property, into the next property. So I wasn't going to keep money sitting in an account just in case.
Very good. And now I remember this was a long time ago. You told me about the agent you were working with. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I think we talked about this actually on the last podcast too. But I mean, it goes to show,
it's been
like,
a while.
Yeah, I know. If you ask an agent directly, do you work with investor clients? And they'll say yes, instead of asking a more open question. Tell me what type of clients you service. Because by the time I purchased my first property onto the second one, I was realizing that I was teaching her more every time we went out. I was teaching her stuff about what are the rents in this area look like, what is the tenant profile, what's the vacancy like, what's repair and maintenance, what are the cash flow numbers. And I remember asking her why she didn't have any rental properties, and she said, I don't like tenants. And I should have, that was kind of my red flag at the time too, that I'm probably not with the right realtor.
Right. And then I met you at Rain, did I not?
Yep. At the Acre event.
Were you just looking for more education, or were you just frustrated with where things were going?
More education. So I had it backwards. I remember thinking to myself after the coaching, so I paid a good amount of money for the coaching, but
how much?
$3,500, $4,000.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad compared to some of the stuff you can pay for today. But I remember saying that, okay, I've paid this money. They guaranteed that I was going to buy a house, or they would help me buy a house. Bought the first house, and I was like, okay, I want the cash flow from my second property to cover what my monthly cost would be for more education, instead of looking at the education as an investment like it is. So that's when I finally joined Rain, when my second property had $300 a month cash flow and it covered my costs.
It's funny because, like, no question will replace a furnace or replace a roof or paint or replace a countertop with granite or quartz. But we have trouble paying for education.
Yeah, and it was $100 a month. Like, it was literally nothing. It was so stupid in hindsight, right? Like, now I realize, the value of education and investing in yourself, and how much more it can bring to the table.
And before we move on, I can't let you off the hook. So you were doing a lot of the renovation work yourself to save money.
I did, yeah.
You saved lots of money, right?
Well, I didn't know any contractors. I didn't have anybody that I could lean on to guide me in the right direction at the time either, right? So I was trying to figure out myself. I had a few handymen off Kijiji to do the stuff that I couldn't figure out. But I'm like, I remember actually going to Home Depot, and I bought the Home Depot hardcover book that had the instructions on,
this is before YouTube.
Way before YouTube and stuff was on there. How to mix grout to lay tiles, how to make sure they were even. So I was doing tile. My dad was helping me do that.
Wait.
I was doing drywall.
Did your dad live in Pickering?
Yeah, he came for, I think he stayed over at my place one night to help me do some of the renovations.
And your dad's a big executive.
Oh, he was retired at the time.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I was doing drywall. I was doing plumbing. I was doing electrical. helped with the kitchen installation when the guy was there. So I pretty much did it all and learned it all on investment properties.
What was your lesson from that?
Did
you end up saving money?
No. So the lesson was that because I was working full time and I had a newborn at home and a family and a wife and a busy job, I think I was maybe dedicating 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a week to the renovations and stuff. So it probably took me 5 to 6 months to finish the full renovation. Mm-hmm. And you factor that in, even at $800 a month rent times 6 months, $4,800, and I could have paid a contractor probably $3,000 to do it for me, and had it done in a month.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then shameless plug, we do have contractors for our clients ready to
exactly.
go.
Yeah, going through that right now. Or one of our clients, she's like, you know what? Give me 3 contractors. You go interview them, get quotes from them for me, put them in front of me. I'll pick whichever one you think I should pick. I'm like, I think you need to do a little bit of due diligence yourself, but I'll help you. Mm-hmm. But it's nice that we have those contacts and the team and the resources in place for our clients, right? Mm-hmm. All the things that I didn't have when I was starting off on my own.
So it's funny because I forgot when I asked you, this was within an hour or two, that I am your coach.
Yes.
Which is weird.
Well, that was a long time ago when it was as my investor coach. But yeah, we started off, you made me go to Rockstar and took the training there just because you wanted to make sure I was legit first and I was actually willing to do it.
It's good education.
No, it is good education too, but I think you wanted to put a hurdle in front of me to make sure that I was worth working with. But yeah, so then you were my coach, and I'm pretty sure I did everything that you told me to do. So
yeah, you did all right.
I've made a few good decisions on my own, but I had a lot of help along the way.
So the listener doesn't know. So we met in 2011, mm-hmm. and then you already had 3 houses. And how many have you bought since 2011?
Well, I did start off doing rent to own as well. So I
sold you 5 houses.
Yeah. So I've done 5 rent to owns. So, and I think all of them but one bought out. So 4 rent to owns sold. So I probably transacted on 16, 17 houses. I've sold 2 or 3 as well over time. So mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're in the middle of selling one right now.
Yeah. So we're waiting on my tenants to leave. Mm-hmm. I kind of did an analysis on my portfolio and looked at, what is the lowest performer. And this one has the least potential at all of them. What's interesting is, right before this, I was looking at the numbers, and even though that's the lowest performing property, it's still cash flowing about $400 a month, just based on the fact that it's never been refied. Which because at the time, I think the appreciation wasn't enough to make sense, and so I just left all the money in the property. Mm-hmm. And now with the market being what it is, it's a 2-bedroom, and one of the bedrooms is a loft. So you have to walk past the loft to get to the second bedroom. So it's really only appropriate for a family with like a young child, or like just a single couple, which is who lives there now.
Right.
And so the plan is for them to find a new place, and it's a cash for keys scenario. So listen, if you guys find a place for December 1st, I'm going to offer you this. And so they're actively looking. Interestingly enough, I had reference calls from 3 of my clients that have available rentals that they've applied for, which is hilarious.
And did you give positive references?
No. They're very nice people, but they've had some issues with paying their rent on time over the last. They've been with me for 3 years, so we had to go to LTB. They got fully caught up though. They paid in full, but it's been up and down over the years for sure.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
I don't like extra admin work, so going to LTB really bothers me.
Luckily, that one was handled by my PM. So
nice.
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. And we purposely don't share Dave's name because he's asked to not be discussed. Mm-hmm. Dave works on a referral-only basis, so meaning that we have to directly refer him someone. He's not interested in any other business. Mm-hmm. Sorry, folks. It's better this way versus he has to tell you no.
Right.
Same from his perspective. He'd rather just not have to say no to so many people. So what did you pay for that house?
That house
the 2-bedroom?
Yeah. I think it was just over 150, 156, I think. Yeah, that was the 3rd house that I bought. 2 on the same street, 5 houses down from each other.
Do you remember the original rent?
Original rent was $950. And that's the rent is 3 years old now, but I think I'm getting $1,360 for it. That was one of the other reasons too, is that if I could incentivize the tenants to leave, the rents, even though they do cash flow well based on the low purchase price, it just makes more sense for me to funnel that capital into other things. One of them being my options trading account.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
What's the market rent?
Market rent's probably 1,700, 1,650,
For a
1,700.
2-bedroom?
Yeah.
What's the property worth today?
I'm going to say about 400. I'm going to do a little bit of a cleanup on it, probably do a new kitchen, planning on spending about 15 to 20,000, just because I think it's going to be worth it for the right person to come in and buy it and pay me kind of a solid market value for it.
Right. And this is the worst deal you've done personally.
Yeah, not too bad, considering.
Yeah, that's well more than double.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you remember what you put down? 20%?
That was 20% down, yeah. So what does that work out to? 30,000?
Just over 30,000?
Yeah.
Did you have to renovate much?
0. Turnkey. Everyone's laughing because he's looking at the numbers.
That's like a return of like 7 times.
Yeah.
Okay. Worst investment. And that's why you're selling it. Because this is your worst investment.
No, I just think that, based on the cash flow and the price increase, appreciation potential of some of my other properties, that this one, the funds are probably better. I could probably make substantially higher cash flow off of other things with the funds from this one versus keeping them stuck in the property.
Right.
Like I could do a refi. I don't think that this property is suitable to be held long term because I think I could do better with either duplexes or some other stuff.
Right.
That would make me better.
Because this property can't be duplexed or triplexed or
correct.
Severed or
no. Yeah. No parking in the back. Can't do a granny suite. No parking in general.
Right. So its current purpose is the highest.
It's highest and best use, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of your mountain properties that you bought with a different agent have other opportunities.
Yeah.
For highest and best use.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. No, Erwin helped me buy one of the shining stars of my portfolio, which I'm excited to duplex. It's been a single family home since we bought it 2015, 2014? I think it was right before I got my license. And 60 by 120 lot on the Hamilton Mountain, which was unheard of. So extra wide, extra deep, toss an accessory dwelling unit in the back eventually once City of Hamilton comes around on that. So huge amount of potential for that.
I remember the roof was shot. I think that came up in inspection.
Just replaced it.
Wasn't it shot when you bought it?
It was rough.
I thought it came up in the inspection. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, it came up inspected as not being great. It might have another 2-3 years left. So it had 7. Not too bad.
The point there is don't be afraid about inspections. It's just money, right? Don't be fearful. Wasn't that the house owned by cops?
Next door. Oh, it was cops. Yeah. And they crossed out the illegal growth of marijuana in the property clause.
Yeah.
They didn't like that one.
What year was this?
I think it was
2014,
2014.
So for the listeners' benefit, I know a lot of you haven't been investing since that long, but around that time was the popularity of including clauses that the owner would warrant that the house was used as a grow op. And it was the oddest thing that both husband and wife owners of the property were both police officers, and they crossed that out.
Yeah, and it was to the best of their knowledge. It's not like if they didn't know that a previous owner had done it, no one would come chasing them. They purposely crossed it out, which was weird. And it was clear that they hadn't used it for a grow up, but who knows? Maybe their lawyer was adamant against it.
It's weird. I just signed off on one of those just recently. Totally weird. All right, where are we going? A lot to cover, MBM. So why do you need a coach?
Why do I need a coach? I think coaching is important for life. I think there's, a point where we all get stuck. And whether that's in business, whether it's in anything, I think there's a lot that a coach brings to the table. And so in order for you to get unstuck and keep growing as a person in a business and in whatever aspect it is, I think it's important that you continue to grow. So for me, education, whether it's through books or coaching or whatever else, is really important. It's kind of neat in our team and in our office, we surround ourselves with, that mentality and, our book of the month. So we're always trying to, get something out of somebody else's material in order to have us all grow together. Just, I think a lot of people would really limit what their, the ceiling is, what their achievements could be without going through coaching.
Yeah. And so the entire team invests in real estate or will. We have some stragglers, right? And almost the entire team does stock hacking minus one person. I'll give Tammy credit because she's making her husband do it. And I believe you're coaching him.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. We're kind of a weird group. We're such a minority.
For sure.
Other than some of us being minorities. And actually, what are your plans with the money that you're selling the house?
Yeah, so
Because it's not like you're selling all your houses off.
no, just that one.
Actually, even before we get to that,
Yeah.
like I think I mentioned on this podcast, or maybe in an intro, maybe the intro of this one, I forget. I've talked about it somewhere. So one of our clients wanted to talk to me about pre-pandemic. Your client, the one that someone you're working with directly, and
Right.
he was at. I didn't take notes, but I think if I recall correctly, what he said was his mentor had sold off his entire real estate portfolio.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so his mentor had sold off his entire real estate portfolio, and I think he suggested the same
He
for our
recommended
client.
you do the same. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so he wanted to get on the phone with me. So for anyone who doesn't know, I don't practice. I don't have clients that I work with directly, but he wanted to get on the phone, so I'm happy to. So I got on the phone with our client, and he told me the story, and he asked me what I was doing. So I'm not doing anything. I'm just gonna hold my real estate. The fundamentals, long-term fundamentals, still look good. It was March. Was this March?
It was March.
It was
yeah.
March. Ooh.
Was it right at the end of March?
Right at the end of March.
Yeah.
Okay. So right at the end of March this year, and he asked, and I told him, I'm a bit lazy. I don't want to sell off all my properties, and part of it is what if I'm wrong? And what if I'm wrong about selling my properties and the market bounces back like I expect it to? And then if the market gets away, what if I can't get back in?
Yeah.
Like the opportunity loss would have been bigger than the risk at that time. So he didn't tell me what he decided from that call.
Yeah, he ended up keeping everything. I think he sold off only one. And
that was pre-planned that one. Though.
He had already planned that to sell that one anyway, and he's actively looking right now.
He sold that one. I forget why. I think he had issues.
Location and tenants.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Yeah. He wasn't a fan of the actual property.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't more of a market thing. I'm surprised he kept everything. His mentor told him to sell.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Well, and I mean, the proof was in the pudding, right? Right after that conversation, when he was still on the fence, everything kind of started to turn a corner on the real estate side. And then,
not into March. We
sorry.
We didn't see the hard turn till May.
No, into May. Yeah. Even if you decide to list your property right now, it probably takes 2 to 3 weeks before, you get pictures, get it cleaned up, minor renovations, stuff like that. So by the time really he put some thought into it, you realize that it made that much more sense. And, I coached him as well on it after he had talked to you too. So we had that full conversation. I said, it doesn't make sense for you to sell these properties. And the interesting story is he bought one in Hamilton. I think it was closer to the peak in 2017. And he did have a lot of issues where he brought in a non-Hamilton contractor, and they didn't realize they needed a contractor's license from City of Hamilton. He made all these mistakes on the renos and the management side. He did, granted, I think his property had been red flagged somehow by the City of Hamilton. So there was like a stop work order immediately. But it was nice to have that conversation because I pushed him to keep that house, regardless of all the trouble that he went through. And I think he bought it for $500 at the time. It had a second kitchen in it. He was going to duplex it. And, hindsight being 2020, I think his expected renovation cost was like $20,000, and new renovation cost because of the city was going to be $50,000, which seems quite a bit higher. But with legal duplexes that we've seen now selling for close to or over $700,000, and he bought that one at $5,000, it's a steal. And so I've had conversations with him recently, and I'm so glad that you kept that property and listened to us because you're so much better for it in the long run.
So I think there's some lessons in this client's challenges with the city. I've never seen the city come down on someone so hard.
Never.
Right? For someone who was ready to cooperate.
Yeah.
Right? Is more from what I could tell, the conversation was more like, how do I do this correctly? And they're like, you're a red flag.
Yeah. Well,
you're gonna do above and beyond everyone else has to do.
Right. And to be fair, I don't know.
And he was a new owner.
He was. Yeah.
He was the new owner. He wasn't the person that was flagged originally.
No. And he got all the crap from all the stuff that the previous owner did, and he just had to deal with it. So luckily, I think it wasn't that expensive for him to satisfy the city's requirements. I think he has the highest single family house rent I know of out of any of my clients right now. I think he's getting $2,800 a month for that house, single family rent. So he's getting the equivalent of what people were getting for duplexes anyway. Yeah. And he didn't have to do all the work. Right. So,
and he was one of our most unhappy clients at the time.
He's pretty happy now.
It's funny too, because the challenge is when clients don't take our advice. Like, we have their best interest at heart. We set them up we introduce them to our contractors, to Andy Tran. The city knows Andy Tran. And he went his own direction to bring his own team from the east side of Toronto.
Durham, yeah.
and he gets the book thrown at him. So,
Yeah.
I just hope the listener takes away that lesson that you need to use local expertise.
For sure.
Yeah, maybe other cities don't throw the book at them as bad as in this case. I don't know where Hamilton fits into like the spectrum of being cooperative with investors, but it's not that bad compared to other cities we've seen.
I think if you do things right from the very beginning, they're very nice, but they will come down hard if they think that you're trying to skirt the rules.
Right. Again, this was the worst we've seen, and he was trying to play ball.
Yeah. Since then, it's been great though.
So weird. Yeah, and now he's looking for another house. Yeah. Okay, we didn't get to this part. What are you doing with the capital that this house that you're selling?
Yeah. So
how much are you freeing up?
It's a good question. I'm hoping for around 200,000.
Nice.
After all said and done, and I want to put most of it into my stock hacking account, and then keep the rest as like most of our clients and investors, I've leveraged a lot of my lines of credit to come up with a down payment for a lot of the purchases. So looking at paying down some of those and keeping some cash reserves on the side.
Mm-hmm. You've had so much success with real estate. Why would you do something else?
Not broke, why fix it? Right? It's real estate is one thing. So real estate itself, I'm never going to get away from. I'm always going to continue to be a real estate investor. Real estate is where I'm parking my wealth. But from a cash flow standpoint, and I think you've covered this on numerous podcasts, and I did some analysis myself, like the amount of cash flow I can generate from stock hacking is the equivalent from the same amount of money I would need from the down payment on one house, I would need 5 houses for. So, for me to generate additional income that I can actually use and spend and go and do stuff with. Like the income on my properties is great, but it's stuck in the house. You can't eat equity. And so I
hate not eating my profits. I would like to have some profits to eat with.
Yeah. Okay. So the cash flow from the stock hacking has been fantastic. Now to date, I haven't taken any out because I wanted to try and grow my trading account. But with the money in here, my goal is to try and pull a specific amount out of the account on a monthly basis so I can do whatever I want with it.
So how long have you been doing this stock hacking thing?
It's been just over a year.
The newest crazy phase.
Yeah, September 20. I was part of the beta class in September 2019.
That's weird. How'd you learn about this stock hacking thing?
It seemed to be the talk of the town for a while prior to that course that the stock hacking course that you hosted back in September, and we kind of were the guinea pigs to see how the course material would work out. And then I think I've attended actually 2 additional courses, both of them ones with Lee Lowell, read the books, and it just made sense.
Did you have to pay for any of this?
Of course I did.
You did? I don't remember. I'm seriously don't know.
Yeah, I did.
They made you pay for the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was cheap though.
It was.
Heck, what you make in a month covers anything you've paid.
Well, my goal was to make enough to cover the course in the first 3 months, which I did because I was only trading with I think 10,000. So I did that. And then I remember sitting with a couple of people in the class saying, if I could make, I think it was $300 to $500 a month, I was going to be happy. And I kind of blew that out of the water and have much bigger goals now. So
what's your track record now?
If I look back at a whole since the beginning, I wasn't tracking as religiously as I am now. I've got a spreadsheet that I track everything with. So from September to March, I actually honestly don't know. I can run the reports out of Interactive Brokers to see, know that I'm up a certain percentage. But since March, so April 1st onwards, I'm up on average 3,000 a month.
US or Canadian? Okay, now it's going to get confusing. So the natural question that people always ask is, what's the size of your bank account? Right.
So I used a line of credit for one of my properties, so I keep that separate, and that started at 42. And then I started with about 75 in the other account. I think that's up to 90.
So combined, 150?
Yeah, 150.
Canadian?
I think, yes, that's 150 Canadian.
Okay, yeah. So that's annoying. So we are Canadian, so I'll convert the US number into Canadian. I'll use 1.32. Just to be transparent, I don't even know what the actual rate is. I think it's around 1.32 right now. Averaging $3,000 US. So that's almost $4,000 Canadian on a $150,000 Canadian bankroll. Oh, Jesus. 2.6%?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I did, if I look at each of the accounts, it's actually I think it might even be a bit higher. 2.5% and 3% per month for sure.
You get that in real estate, don't you?
cash flow. Not quite. Not on new properties, that's for sure.
All right. For folks who don't know, James has his realtor license as well. So he helps investors buy properties. So say a new investor wants to buy a property, what kind of cash flow expectations should they have?
So if they're doing single family right now, is the numbers are tough to make cash flow, which is why almost all of our clients have switched to doing, duplex conversions, taking a single family house and turning it into 2 units legally. Mm-hmm. And so the expectation, if they leave all the capital in the property from the renovation, you're probably close to $1,000 a month. And if you were to refinance, you're probably bring that down to about $500. So, that kind of goes in line with that. In order to get $3,000, $4,000 of cash flow, you need about 4 of those. And, down payment wise, that's a heck of a lot more money than $140,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm surprised you paid for the first course.
I did. Check the records. Terry knows.
It was stupid cheap, though. It was a beta. Yeah, it's not fair. It was a beta course. It was like stupid cheap. Yeah, I told you to take the course. Mm-hmm. And I had nothing really to benefit from it.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of everything that you do and we do as a team is we want people to learn stuff that's going to help themselves, right? So, every person that I've told about this too is, we're trying to preach how they can help themselves, how they can do something different to make cash flow take control of their lives and do something a little bit different, whether it's through real estate or stock hacking or something else, right? We're not pitching it for the sake of pitching it. We're pitching it because we want to try and help people.
So we have a number of clients we help with their real estate, help them acquire investment property. And we have quite a few clients who've taken Stock Hacker Academy, the course with Lee Lowell. Who would you say surprised you the most?
About how well they've done, or just in general?
In general, how well they've done. I will say Bill has completely shocked me.
Yeah. Well, so we shout outs to Bill because I'm sure he's going to listen to this. But Bill and I talk almost every day.
Bill, can we say Bill's last name?
Yeah, I'll leave it off just in case.
Okay.
But him and I talk almost every day. Almost all this specifically about stocks, though we've done a couple of real estate deals together. So I helped him sell one of his investment properties and he's now bought a property that he's going to duplex. So Bill learns, he's a very hands-on learner. So, by helping him, and I think this is true of everything, by teaching, you learn where your gaps are as well. So for me, teaching him, when he didn't understand a concept, I was like, maybe I don't understand it all that well as well. So I dug deeper into it. So by teaching him, I've also learned a lot. So I think that's actually helped me in my trading. So yeah, he's a Tesla junkie, but he's doing really, really well.
Do you know how well?
No, I don't know his exact numbers. I know he's working with a little bit larger bankroll, but his numbers are, if not the same, but surpassing mine for sure.
Right, amazing.
And you didn't ask this question, but neither of us have had any experience in the stock market, right? Mm-hmm. So, my only experience was buying when I first started work at Bell, which was right at the beginning of the tech bubble. And I think I put $10,000 in an account. I bought a bunch of different stocks that I really didn't know much about and ended up losing most of the money on a couple, broke even on a few others. And I said, you know what? I don't know enough about this. There's no training out there. This was back in 2001, 2000. So that was the extent of my stock market experience until September last year.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Did you ever think you'd be here?
No. I tell my wife, I'm like, look, I just made $1,000. It's addictive. It's like this video game that I'm playing on my phone, but it's making me money. Got to be strategic with it, but it's pretty amazing.
What does she think about this?
Oh, she thinks it's great.
Is she willing to do it?
No. If it doesn't interest her, it's not something she's willing to do. So she's happy to let me do it and have all the fun.
You said something at lunch about being lazy. You had a tip about the benefit, the skills that lazy people have.
Yeah.
What was that?
No, that's one of my favorite lines from when I was at Bell. So there was a guy that I worked with, Mike, and he was a senior project manager. So he was my superior. Like I was just a junior PM at the time. And one of his best lines was that give the laziest guy the most difficult job and he'll find the easiest way to do it. And that always stuck with me because I've always kind of taken that to heart, right? There's a lot of ways you can do things difficult, or you can find the easiest way, whether that's hiring a coach to help you walk through stuff or outsourcing or delegating, whatever that is. And part of the stock hacking was, even if you knew about options before that, or even if you knew about real estate, unless you get direction from somebody and have somebody who's done it before you or can teach you what to do properly, like, the smart way to learn is from somebody else who's already made all the mistakes. The difficult way to learn is by making those mistakes yourself, right? So I was the lazy guy that wanted to learn from somebody else's mistakes in every aspect.
That's what I'm finding with like following Lee and being Lee Lowell, so best-selling author of Get Rich with Options. He shared this many times that his favorite strategies are selling puts or doing bull put spreads. So I'm sorry, we probably lost a whole bunch of people. But what I'm trying to get to is, like, I spent a lot of time this summer day trading. I made some good money doing it, but it was really stressful. Took a lot of time. Took a lot of time commitment. I've come to not enjoy it. So then I can see how Lee is right. Because he's been there and done that 30 years, full time, right? And I see how right he is.
Yeah, and you can make it complicated. Like, there's so many complicated strategies when it comes to stock options, or you can keep it simple. And so that's been my philosophy, is like, there's a whole bunch, I won't even get into the other stuff that you guys talk about, that you've learned all the different strategies. And I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to focus on really what works. And the core is the basics of options trading, which is naked puts. Right. And it served me very well.
Right. And the same is no different than real estate. So so James and I work together, and the number one request from our clients is quote unquote a deal. And that's from all investors. Yeah. But it always comes up often with beginner investors. So I don't know. I'm just going to hand that off to you.
Interesting segue. So yeah, I mean, and often it kind of blows me away, because, I want to know, what is your definition of a deal? I just want a deal. Usually tells me a lot about the investors, that they probably don't know their market. They don't know what they're looking for.
And then they prove it to you.
Yeah, because and Erwin and I were talking about this at lunch, and there's so many different types of realtors out there, and I'm not going to name any names or crap on any other realtors, but there are a lot of investor realtors who will keep all the deals for themselves. They'll be the first ones, and then they send the scraps to their clients, where we're completely different mentality, where and you go back to our newsletters that we send out, and I've sent it out, I think 3 or 4 either off-market deals or great cash flowing properties. And I know that you did the same thing with one of the properties, and clients don't jump on them. They say they want a deal, and you send them a deal and they don't take action. And so then, we're not going to let this deal go to waste. So then we've taken advantage of them. I know you bought one of the properties that you showed on your tour.
Robin's house. Yeah. My daughter's house.
Yeah. And same with me.
The agent was calling me like, why didn't you bring me an offer? You showed this house like 5 times.
Like, I'm trying to sell it. I know.
But it wasn't the exact same house that Robin bought. It was a house across the street with the garage for less money. With a detached garage. So that house was better. We toured it twice. So we put through at least 45, 50 investors through that house. I'd shown it separately to different investors. No one took it. When the house that I ended up being Robin's house, already ran this by all my clients. Yeah. This one's my daughter's.
Take it. Yeah.
And just in case anyone doesn't know, I think I paid $245 for it. I've since duplexed it, and duplexes are now worth what, James?
I'm going to say that one in that location is going to be probably $685, $700. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's my wife's. That's my daughter's RESP.
Yeah, that goes back to the deal. I mean, the last one that we sent out to our clients, I brought 2 people through it. Nobody took action.
Oh, but you sent it to even more.
Yeah, I sent it out to my entire list. Only I sent it out to over 400 people.
All right.
400 people passed on it.
398 people passed on a deal. Okay.
2 people raised their hands, wanted to see it, said there's not enough profit in it for them. So I bought it. And between when I bought it, which was May of 2018, May of 2019, it's only last year. And now, so a year and a half, and comparables are all 125,000 more.
Right. Even when you bought it and you fixed it up and you rented it out, like you made money right away, didn't you?
100%.
Did you not?
Yeah.
Do you remember how much you made right away? Right away?
It was easy. We spent 20. It was easily 60 grand more. So we made about 40,000 just by doing a small reno.
So how long did that take?
Through 2.5 weeks.
How much was the house?
$275.
And you put in how much?
20 grand.
Plus your down payment?
Yeah.
To make 40 grand?
Yeah.
In 2.5 weeks? And all these people said no.
It's a good deal.
Which is odd, because most even flippers will say they just want 40, 50 grand, right? But they don't want to hold it.
Right.
That number has to be net of cost to exit.
For sure.
So
it was a bit skinny for a flipper. I could see that, but for anybody looking for a buy and hold,
right,
and that
area is fantastic.
It is fantastic, and with the change in interest rates, like it was cash flowing about $400 a month as is, and with the drop in interest rates since March, it's about $650 a month.
Right,
single family house, positive cash flow.
Right, and we knew it when the opportunity raised itself. It was in one of the hottest neighborhoods. Kind of proven itself. Hindsight.
For sure.
That's interesting.
Good example to use, because I mean, when somebody says they want a deal, I said, I'll get you a deal like this if we take action on it. If the answer is no, then I'm not going to send you a deal, because obviously you don't know what a deal is.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I don't even know what the lesson is, because a lot of first-time investors ask this, like, how do I know that you won't keep all the deals?
Right.
Or, I know you have lots of clients just like me. How all the deals get to me, right? It's really up to the individual to be able to take action.
Yeah.
To know enough to take action.
For sure.
400 people turned down making 40 grand in 2.5 weeks.
So for anyone that's on my mailing list, pay attention when I send a deal out.
Right. And we just had one too, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah. And the wholesaler ended up buying it.
Yeah.
The wholesaler that brought us the deal ended up buying their own deal. They gave us a fair chance, did they not?
They did.
Right.
They gave us 2 weeks. Yeah.
So the wholesaler was willing to eat their own cooking, but 400 people weren't, roughly?
That one didn't go out to the whole list.
Okay.
We were trying to be strategic on that one.
Okay.
But I had 5, just me personally, I had 5 people pass it.
Right. I don't know. I think the lesson is people need to define what a deal is. Part of it also is, like I've said this for the longest time, maybe not so much on this podcast, it's just for sharing more, is if you're a long-term investor, more deals makes more sense to you. Versus if you are a flipper, you have to be extremely selective.
Right.
Right. I understand that. But the long to mid-term investor left how much money on the table? So how much money did you make on the one that you did end up buying?
In just over a year?
Yeah.
I think we're going to about 150.
You made just over 150 in just over a
year and a half, yeah.
Year and a half, maybe 150. I think most people would like to improve their net worth by 150 in 18 months.
Yeah. It's not like that was all that rare. I mean, yeah, we bought well on that one. So the purchase was a little bit under market. But even if you had just found something similar, even if it was a little bit more expensive, the numbers aren't that dissimilar.
And that's pre-pandemic. So there was like no real fears. And one of the best neighborhoods to invest.
Yeah.
Weird. I don't get it. I would have bought it if I had money.
It's about taking action. And like I said, I'm an opportunistic investor. So I say a good opportunity if no one else is going to jump on it. I'm not going to let it go to waste.
Right. So I noticed that when I became a realtor I saw way more opportunities once I became a realtor. Once I was practicing and I was on the road regularly. Is it the same in your experience?
For sure. I think the difference is that, personally, because I'm not actively looking to grow my portfolio with either through joint ventures, I've just fully invested. So all of my capital is deployed into properties or into stock hacking, right? So even if a fantastic deal came up, I'm just not in a position to actually take action on it. But yeah, we probably come across 2 or 3 fantastic deals every month. Luckily, we have a lot of great clients who are picking these up, right, and jumping on them and taking action.
Right. Yeah, we should probably clarify that. So I think the number is, I forget the number is. I think last year when we checked, I think our clients averaged 400% return, about 402% return over 6 years.
I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the way it worked was if they bought a property with us in 2013, and then we checked the prices in 2019, their average return worked out to roughly 402%, and that was before mortgage pay down, before cash flow. So it's not like all of our clients didn't take action. We have lots of clients who take action who've done very well for themselves.
We have a lot of really good clients.
Right. And I think I have to source the data. So that's internal client survey. We are realtors, so we know what our clients transacted on. We have a pretty good approximation of what properties are worth. All right, James, we've been here for a while. I'm sure we have a lot more to cover too. I don't know why I wrote down the Vegas trip, but yeah, we won't go there. I forgot the rule in Vegas. I don't know why I wrote that down. Any other lessons? Oh, and just quickly about stock hacking. Are you pretty aggressive with your stuff, or you're doing?
I've been I'm pretty conservative, I like to say. There's a few stocks that...
Can you name them? Is this safe to? This is education, folks.
Sure.
None of us are advisors.
So I'm keeping it very, very generic, very blue chip. So it's all, based on the early learnings and, looking at kind of the household name stocks.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really only been trading like the Apples, Microsoft, Facebook, Zoom when it was actually affordable. It's not anymore. So it doesn't make sense financially to trade that one. There's just too much risk. Seasonally, I'll do Nike, Bank of America. I've stayed away from the Canadian stocks just because there's no volatility and no liquidity. So there's not a lot of opportunities to make some good money in there. And because I'm actively trading and not holding the stocks, it doesn't make sense for me to take the dividends on those ones because I don't own them. But yeah, and then there's just one or two that I've stepped outside of that kind of main box of solid companies. But I mean, that's on like a $50 stock, one contract here or there. So, for the listener, that's probably about the equivalent of a $5,000 investment on a $140,000 bankroll. So very, very low percentage of my portfolio is on those riskier ones. But yeah, just, kind of rotating capital on a, daily basis, getting in and getting out, and really nothing fancy.
Mm-hmm. And you follow these trades?
I do. Yep. I think I've done every single one on the regular trades, and very similar to you. There's only been one that hasn't been successful, and I got out of that one and I made $1. So it's still not a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Managed to get out without losing any money, and made really good returns on the rest of them. Similar to a lot of our other investors, I do them a little bit differently with my own take because we all have our own tolerance for risk.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm averaging just on the lead trades probably 14 to 20% on average if you annualize them.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, better than private lending. Yeah, I've always had baselines for returns, and that's my baseline for a cash flow play.
For sure.
Right.
It's probably one of the most passive, definitely, but least control. The less control you have over the investment, the riskier it is usually for me.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any final words, James? Anything you want to talk about?
I think we covered a lot. Be opportunistic. If you're looking to invest, listen to your coach if you've got one. Jump on opportunities as they come out. Don't have analysis paralysis. Like a lot of people think that they need to know every single number. If you're buying in the right city, the right type of house that's in good condition that meets all your other criteria, there's really not all that much more analysis you need to do on it. And if you're not sure of your numbers, that's what your coach is for, right? So, and if you don't know that, lean on either myself or somebody on our team, and we can guide you through that process. But it's just being ready to jump on opportunities when the time comes.
So when I looked back at my notes, so one of the notes I made was you retired your wife.
Yes.
And I just want to preface that with that's one of the top goals of new investors when they come to meet with us is to retire their spouse. Mm-hmm. And you achieved it in what year?
Oh, this goes way back.
2015, 2016?
Before that, I think.
Before that?
Yeah.
2015?
I think my daughter was 4 or 5, so 2014 or 2015. It was like that toss up between, so, to put it in context too, she was only working part-time, but it was still, I think it was, the biggest issue was it was weekends. So it was Saturday, Sunday for 2 weekends a month, and then during the week as well. And so it was just shuffling back and forth on, I was still working full-time at Bell. I was still a real estate agent, new that same year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this just doesn't make sense.
You're making so much money, it didn't make sense.
Not quite, but there was enough income there that I was able to cover her salary, knew that we were safe.
Mm-hmm. So how'd you do it?
Well, I had, at that point, probably have the cash flow from the properties.
Mm-hmm.
I had my salary, which I knew that was guaranteed. And then I just knew kind of that I would be able to work hard enough to make up the difference if I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Never came to that.
So you shared this last time. I didn't think I could ask this, but you shared it last time. How many times more do you make now than your old salary?
It's probably changed since last time. I think last time it was double, and we're probably a triple.
A triple?
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad.
So when you factor in inflation, it's still pretty good. No complaints. And, that also doesn't factor in cash flow from properties or stock hacking. So really happy with kind of how everything is played out.
All right. So you have a miserable life, don't you?
Terrible.
No, I'm just kidding, but you're pretty happy, aren't you?
Yeah. It's nice to have choice. And I think our friend Bill who posted, it's not about having money. It's about having choices, and real estate and stock hacking really give you the choice to, it's almost like it's freedom, right? Mm-hmm. What can I do? What do I want to do? What cause do I want to support? Whether it's, our charity or whatever it is, gives you choices.
Mm-hmm. And what Bill posted was pretty cool. So for the listeners' benefit, Bill his wife posted Instagram pictures. They replaced they had double doors at the front of their house, and they since replaced them with brand new, gorgeous double doors. Mm-hmm. I like the new design. And that's gotta be $3,000 to $5,000 to do.
Yeah.
$3,000 to $5,000, and Bill paid for it with his stock option trading.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's success when your assets pay for your living, right? And that's a very nice way to treat the family and his wife, because he hustles. He hustles hard for everything he does in his life. He has one side hustle, plus his real estate, plus his stock hacking, plus his day job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's able to reward his family with that. So pretty cool. Makes me happy.
Yeah,
happy to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, MBM.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks. Before you go, if you're interested in being a successful real estate investor like those who have been featured on this podcast and our hundreds of successful clients, please let us know. It is our honor to give back and educate others on how we ourselves build cash flowing real estate portfolios using all the best practices shared on this podcast, from the lessons of our hundreds of clients, and of course, our own experience in owning investment real estate. If you didn't already know, we pride ourselves at being the best of the best in real estate as coaches, having the best property managers, contractors, handy people, cleaners, lawyers, accountants, everyone you need on your power team. We're happy to share them with our clients to ensure your success. New investors or seasoned investors alike, we can help anyone by providing our award-winning coaching services. And this isn't all talk. We have been awarded Realtor of the Year to investors in 2015 by the Real Estate Investment Network, 2016 by the Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine, and again in 2017 because no one told the judges no one is supposed to win the award twice. But on merit, our peers deemed us to be the best. And again in 2018, we again won the same award by the Real Estate Investment Network. So 4 years in a row, we collected that award, and it'll never happen again. We will be the only team to ever win collect this number of awards, because Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine doesn't give out awards anymore. Hopefully, being the most decorated team of realtors in Ontario will make you consider us for your next or first real estate investment. Even if you don't invest in our areas, there's a good chance I know who would be ideal for you. I've been around for a while. It's a very small community. Everybody knows everybody. There are some realtors who are talented at servicing investors, and there are a great many with great ethics. Unfortunately, the intersection of the two, talent and ethics, is actually very limited to only a handful in each city or town. Only work with the best of the best is what my father always taught me. If you're interested, drop us an email at iwin@infinitywealth.ca. That's IWIN@infinitywealth.ca. Hope to meet you at one of our future meetups soon. Again, that's iwin@infinitywealth.ca. That's our email address. All right. Hope to see you soon.